Hey friends, it's Kevin with Better Bible Reading, and today we have our latest Bible review and one that I am very excited to show off. This is the New King James Version Wide Margin Bible. This has been my daily driver for a couple months now, and I would like to show it off to you as what is, in my opinion, the best wide margin Bible that I have used to date. Now, that may be surprising to a lot of you because I have on this channel promoted heavily various ESV Bibles, and some people may even think that I'm some kind of secret sales rep for Crossway or something like that, or I'm just a dyed-in-the-wool ESV guy. And while I do really appreciate the ESV, our church still uses the ESV, I preach from the ESV, my daily driver Bible is actually this New King James Version Bible. I would like to show you, there's a lot of things that we could go over with this Bible, but I'd like to show you just a couple things right off the bat. Number one, for those of you who have watched my older videos and heard my feedback about imitation leather versus genuine leather, this is a genuine leather wide margin Bible, and I decided to do that because even though I like Bible rebinding, I like to get a deal on an inexpensive Bible and then rebind it if and when I need to. I decided just to go for the gold on this one, and this is not like a high quality calf skin or something crazy, but it is a nice durable leather. It looks good, it's good quality, and I decided just to do that because I wanted to just have something that would last without me having to do anything to it. So you see the design. It is a nice black leather. You got the nice gold page outlines and two ribbons, a red and a black, and nice perimeter stitching all the way around as well. That is kind of the aesthetic. That's as far as I'm going to get into the aesthetics. Now I want to show you the actual Bible. And one of the things that you'll notice right off the bat with this one is that it's a different kind of wide margin Bible compared to something like my ESV wide margin Bible. This one is single column. If I flip around to the different genres, you'll see that it's single column. But also what is noteworthy for this one and why I like it, let me get to a different genre here. Why I like it is that all the cross references, instead of being a block down on the bottom, is that the cross references are all in the middle margin. Now you might think, as a wide margin Bible, a single column one, that having cross references all the way down the middle like that takes away from the writing real estate. And even though that's a legitimate concern, what I find is that it's easier to have the cross references going down so that they're somewhat in line with the verses that they're referencing. And it is, for any of you who have ever used a wide margin Bible, it is kind of a task to write in this inside margin anyways. So to just be able to have that for your cross references, and you have a slightly larger margin on the ends, since it's single column, you have plenty of room on this side, and depending on the genre, you're going to get room on the inside as well. Let me show you that. So for example, there's all this room here in something like Job. You'll see the same kind of thing in the Psalms. So you do end up getting more room than just the outside margins, but in general, the outside margins are what you're going to use in this Bible. And I think it's plenty of room, and the layout is superb for that reason. There's a lot of things that we could talk about for this Bible, and there certainly is a lot of overlap with some of the things that I've already said with my ESV wide margin Bible. So for all practical purposes, just for the mindset and the selling point of a wide margin Bible, I'll just refer you to my ESV wide margin Bible review video where I get into that and why I do it. I also have a video on my highlighting method for wide margin Bibles featuring that ESV wide margin in that video, and you can check that out as well. I haven't gotten to highlighting in this Bible yet. I have been writing with a pencil, but that's the extent of what I've got so far. But a few things that make this Bible stand out for me is, number one, the ability for cross-references to show up. Any of you who have worked your way through books like Kings and Chronicles in the Old Testament will know that in books like 1 Kings and 2 Kings and 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles, there's a lot of overlap. It's, for all intents and purposes, it is the same chronological period that's being recounted. You kind of get the events in real time, as it were, in 1st and 2nd Kings, and then you get a post-exile reflection of that in Chronicles. So normally, whenever you're reading Kings, you know that most of the content is going to be repeated in Chronicles and vice versa. So it's very handy the way that this Bible's laid out. For example, this passage is 2 Kings chapter 20. But if you look right here, the heading shows you where it is referenced in 2 Chronicles. So 2 Chronicles 32. You get that kind of thing all throughout the Kings. I'll flip back to an earlier page. Let's go after the death of, well, actually, let's just look at Solomon's life. When Solomon dedicates the temple in 1 Kings chapter 8, you have the reference here of where that is in 2 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 7. You see the same kind of thing if I were to flip to 2 Chronicles 7. It would also have a heading referencing back to 1 Kings. So that's really helpful because those kind of things typically are told to us in the cross references. And normally in Bibles, you got to look here or maybe somewhere on the bottom to see where this is referenced elsewhere in the Bible. And you certainly still have cross references all along here. But I like that is provided in the heading sections themselves so that right when you get to it, you know, because they provided it for you, exactly where that is in its kind of synoptic reference in the Old Testament. Now, speaking of synoptics, most of you have probably heard that phrase. Speaking of the Gospels, the synoptic Gospels, to be more precise, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And this is yet another wonderful feature that this Bible has. In the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew chapter 12, Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. There's the heading. And what do you know? It shows you right there where this also occurs in the Gospel of Mark as well as the Gospel of Luke. And you see this pattern all the way throughout the Gospels. Again, that is an excellent feature that is not in the ESV Wide Margin Bible. It's not in my King James Wide Margin Bible that I've also featured on here. It is a feature that is distinct to this Bible, and I love that it is a feature because it is so helpful to just see that right there without having to take your eyes away from the text to look along the inside margin or down the bottom somewhere. So very well done there. A couple other things that we could say about this Bible. I'm not going to get into the translation itself because I would like to feature a different video dedicated to the New King James Version versus the ESV because, as I mentioned, this is now my daily driver, which means that I'm using the New King James Version, whereas I used to use the ESV for most of my reading and study. I'll have a separate video on that, but just talking about the utilization of this Bible and not getting into the translation philosophy itself, one thing that is also helpful with the New King James Version is we have the cross references down in the inside, but one thing that we also have are the footnotes on the bottom. And the footnotes on the bottom provide, there's the NU, I'm not going to get into the technical idea behind that, but what this is telling us, for example, in chapter 12, verse 22, so let's look at 12:22, which is up here. You see that number 1 right there. Well, what does that tell us? Well, we go down to 22:1, and it tells us that this manuscript, this is the manuscript that something like the ESV is using, it says in that manuscript tradition, this phrase is omitted. Now that's really good to know, because if I had the ESV Bible, it sometimes, but typically will not, tell me on this very same verse that in this manuscript tradition of the New King James that the phrase is included. Now you'll have very clear instances of that, such as the ending of Mark's Gospel or John chapter 8, where you'll have very large chunks of scripture that are included in some manuscripts and not others. That's something like the ESV will have those brackets around it, and they'll tell you that a lot of manuscript traditions include this, but the manuscript tradition that they have been using in their translation does not include it. They'll tell you that kind of thing, but this is great because it just tells you very minor discrepancies essentially on every page where there's is an omission or something like that. For example, you see the same thing here regarding verse 13 of chapter 25. On and on we could go, but again, that's just a nice reference, because even when you're using something as the New King James Version, it's helpful to know where the differences are in some of the more modern translations that are using the critical text with the variety of manuscripts. So this Bible is very well designed. The layout is great. The font size is great. And again, the margins here, there's plenty of room for writing and underlining and all the rest. I haven't tested out highlighters on it yet, but the page quality seems to be pretty even with what is in my ESV wide margin Bible, so I don't think there'll be any issue with that. But again, I want to have a separate video going over the translation itself and why I have pivoted to the New King James Version. But for now, I just wanted to highlight this Bible as something that I bought a few months ago and am really enjoying it. The thickness is a little bit different from my ESV wide margin, but it's pretty close to the same size. But just the features and the layout of it, I really appreciate. And so I want to commend it to you as an option. If you've watched some of my older videos and you just can't really get behind the ESV, but you also don't necessarily love using the King James Version, what I would recommend to you is going with the New King James. You kind of get the best of both. And if you want a wide margin Bible especially, this is the best wide margin Bible that I have used so far. And so give it a look and buy it and use it if you have been convinced by this video. I'll have some more content on this kind of thing coming up, and I have some other ESV Bibles that I also want to review on this channel. So I'm not, throwing all my ESV Bibles out into the dumpster or something like that. I still really enjoy that translation, and I want to showcase a few more Bibles. But in terms of what I'm using right now and what I'm really liking, this New King James Version Wide Margin Study Bible, I'll put a link. It won't be an affiliate link, but I'll just put a link in the description if you're interested in checking this out. I think it was around $40 or $50 on Amazon when I bought it. So in my opinion, a really good price for a genuine leather Bible. But pay attention to upcoming videos. If you want to subscribe to the channel, feel free. If not, regardless, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video to be helpful. But either way, there'll be some new content coming out on Better Bible Reading in the near future with even more Bible and book reviews. But this has been Kevin Morris. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day.